Hey friends, Melina at Pathways here. Thanks so much for your patience during this Mercury retrograde while we've been really fighting with the tech issues. So this is technically, it is day 17, but I am not recording it on the 17th. We're a little bit behind, so thanks again for sticking with us while we navigate this very fun Mercury retrograde. So on today's 31 Days of Samhain, I wanted to touch a little bit more on protection. Now, some of this might be some information that you've seen in the Maybon series, but I kind of wanted to go into it a little more in depth here, and I have all kinds of stuff. We're just going to talk our way through it. But to start out, I wanted to point out to you guys that protection doesn't just happen like on the physical plane. Protection, of course, happens on the spiritual plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane. So you have all these bodies. You have the mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical, etheric bodies. So protection for each of those bodies is going to be a little bit different, a little bit similar, but still yet a little bit different. And if you're not familiar with etheric bodies, I'll give you that just in a nutshell really quick. So you have your physical body, and you have these etheric bodies that kind of layer out around you like an egg. And each body will affect the body beneath it. So a good example is, let's say, and they don't always go through all of the bodies, but let's say you have some thoughts about, you're concerned about someone who's sick, or you're concerned about your job. That's a good one to talk about right now. Let's say you're concerned about your job. You have all these thoughts up in that mental plane, and you're really kind of taking those thoughts apart, and before you know it, you're in that, oh my gosh, what am I going to do stage, and it starts to your mind just swims in just that one thing, and you think about it, and you think about it, and you think about it, and then you get to the point where you start feeling really emotional about it. It's not just the thoughts in your head anymore. It starts working with your emotions, and that worry and concern in that emotional body comes up because it started as a thought in the mental body. So it starts as a thought, you think about it a lot, it moves down into that emotional body, and you actually have these emotional sensations about the whole what if I lose my job thing. You worry about it so much, your stomach starts to hurt. You might feel like your stomach is real acidy, and before you know it, you develop an ulcer, and that happens in your physical body. So that's just an example of how those finer planes, those etheric bodies, can precipitate down into physical form and cause sometimes issues in our physical form. So if you work on a healing aspect of that, you might want to come at something like that from the plane above it, or the physical body above it. But that's it in a nutshell. So again, physical protection happens on a lot of levels besides spiritual. So I wanted to talk about I want to go through the tools I pulled. We're going to talk about how you can use them with the different bodies and which ones might be best. One thing I want to talk about first is there's this fantastic book by our friend Christopher Penczak. It's called The Witch's Shield. Do not be thrown off by the label of this book. And this is essentially the banishing pentagrams and hexagrams, which are also included on this lovely CD in the back. So you can help you learn how to say them, because what it is you're speaking or you're vibrating God names, and some of them are in Hebrew, so it can be a little challenging to learn. The nice thing is Christopher has it on a CD in here. So even if you're I really need to do the protection stuff now, but you haven't learned all of the banishings yet, what you can do is you can pick up the CD inside the book, turn it to track 4, turn it on, hit repeat, you're good. So if you feel like you have a negative energetic, say in your house, or your house is feeling kind of funky in a not hip 70s kind of way, and say you've smudged and you've put your tourmaline out, and you've put out your selenite and all these things that protect your house. Another thing you can do is you can do the banishing pentagrams and hexagrams. You can play this in your space, and the sound of those names creates a vibration. So sounds are vibrations. It will vibrate out through your house and help cleanse your house for you. Just to let you know, we do banishing pentagrams and hexagrams daily here at the shop, because we have a lot of people that come in and out, and you just never know what folks are going through. So it's just good spiritual housekeeping. So we do these every day when we first open the shop, just so you guys have a nice, clean, clear space to be in. A lot of times people come in and they're like, gosh, it feels so good in here. And it's like, yeah, that's not by accident, let me tell you. But again, the book is called The Witch's Shield. Usually when I order these, I order them like a dozen at a time. It's just one of our best sellers. And because people always ask me, it's $21.99. So there you go. Just one aspect. Now, a lot of times the simple smudging and space clearing will work just fine for you. So let's take a minute to go into depth a little bit more about sage. So this is a white sage, and it's just like a really big fat bundle, like there's in my hand. So sage is good for cleansing energy, like if you feel like somebody's had a crabby day and they've maybe brought that in, or if you're buying something new, like say you're buying, I don't know, jewelry from somewhere, or especially if you like buy stuff at a secondhand store, you want to make sure you smudge it before you bring it in. I've even taken like salt water, like if I've ever there's a couple times I've brought some pieces into my home, and what I will do is I'll make like a salt water solution, and I might put a little bit of an essential oil in there, and I'll literally like wash down the table or whatever I'm buying. You can't always do that if it's something fabricy like a chair. So there's liquid sage for that, and you can spray that over it. So you can do that too. So one of the things you want to consider when it comes to working with sage, there's a lot of different kinds. Any sage will work for you. There's typically like a desert sage, which looks like really tiny little sticks or thin leaves, and then there's California white, which if I hold this closer, that's a good example of what the leaf looks like. It's kind of furry. It's got like a furry texture to it. In my opinion, this smells less like a weed, and for some people that's a problem. For some people it's fine, no big deal. So what you want to do, a lot of times you'll want to snip this thread and take a couple pieces out, like what we do here when we do our daily tarot card drawing and lighting our mini candles. So you can take a little sprig off like that and light it and move it around in your space. Now if you're smudging in your home, you want to use something, typically like a feather. Anything will work though. And you want to use the feather to move I'm going to use this as an example. You want to use the feather to move the smoke in that area. You really don't want to use your hand, because if you're cleansing and there's negative energy there, you don't want to like pick it up on your hands. And typically a lot of times people will use a shell to catch any of the ash. It will turn kind of cherry, like a cherry on the end of a cigarette, those little embers that like drop off and burn your carpet. So most of the time you want to have like a shell, which I forgot to grab, but any kind of heat-proof vessel will do. So sometimes you have to be a little tricky, like this is not ideal, but like if you imagine you have your little piece of sage here, so you can hold this and you can kind of like hold it over your bowl, and after you light it, it'll just smoke, and then you can take your feather and push that smoke into those areas of your home. A lot of times people will use a shell because it represents the water elements, and it balances out the fire element from the sage, so that doesn't kind of like get out of control. So it's a nice balance of energy of fire and water, so things kind of stay nice and stable. Whenever you're smudging in your house, you are essentially creating a bit of a void. So let's say you're cleansing, so if there was anything in that space, like a negative energetic, or like just some low level, daily crabbiness or whatever, when you cleanse that, you've created a void in that space. So you want to decide what goes into that space. You don't want to just leave it open. Nature doesn't like a vacuum. So if there's an empty space, it'll put something else in it. So as you're smudging, you could say a prayer. You can do an affirmation. Only love and light may enter here. Only love and light may enter here. May all those who enter into this space be happy and healthy. Anything like that. It does not have to be a specific prayer. Let's talk about the feathers a little bit, because people will always ask us, what's better, a white feather or a black feather, and it's the one you like. We just give you this for choices. Now, some people look at the black feather and they get like, why would you use a black feather? The black is really good to help get rid of negativity because it just kind of like transmutes it. Now, some people, maybe they come from like a background where they're very into like angels and beings of light. You can use the white feather and come at things from like a higher vibration. So either way will work fine. There is no wrong color. Those are just the ones we have. You may find natural ones, like if you go for a walk at a park, you know, you may be gifted something. And we had talked about that a little bit. If you ever were to find something, you always want to leave an offering in its place because nature has given you that gift. So also going along with the idea of like a black and white, black candles are really good for transmuting negative energy and getting rid of it. This is just a plain black candle that we carry in the store. Now, before you use any of these, you always want to like smudge your candle, whatever you're working on. And then the nice thing about these plain glass candles is you can write your intention on there. You can write your intention on the bottom. You can put a little oil on the top. You can anoint your candle that way. I like using a black candle, especially if I'm cleaning and clearing. And then I might burn like a white candle in tandem with that to bring in that higher energetic. So I'm taking the higher energetic and I'm filling the void in the space. But as you're smudging, you want to like have in your brain anything that people like doing at your home. So like maybe you guys are big outdoor people and you do a lot of grilling or things like that. Imagine people coming over to your house doing the stuff that makes you happy. They're all smiling, everybody's healthy, coming into money, you know, all of that stuff. You always want to come at it from what you want, not from what you don't want. Let's go ahead and talk about herbs next. One of my favorite things, herbs. So salt is also very purifying and very grounding. We have, this is Himalayan, this is Dead Sea salt. Either one is fine, but you can put your salt and dissolve it into some water and go around and like asperge your space. You could really use anything to do that. You can use your hands to do that because you're not like really moving into the space. You're just kind of sending out that energy to kind of ground any fragmented energy or any energy that feels like it's not very solid. It's not very core. It could feel like it's, you know, fragmented is the best word that I can come up with at the moment. But you can do that. You can also take salt and do a line of salt like around your property or around your car or over the threshold of your door. That is good as well. What some people will do if they're working on, let's say, if you're working on protecting an individual, so you can use a candle. I'm just going to talk you through this real quick. You can use a candle and then you could either get a picture of that person or write their name down, put that on a piece of paper, put your candle on top of it, and then you can take your salt and do a ring of salt around that candle like that. Another thing you can do, let's see, I'm trying to make it so you guys can see this. Another thing you can do is you can surround it also in stones, like these are black tourmaline, because again, that's Mel's favorite. And it's just in, like some of them are, I've got rough ones, we've got tumbled ones, anything like that. You might want to mix them up. And then if you want to add some extra oomph to what you're doing, you can also take clear quartz and go around it like every other one here and add clear quartz to it. Clear quartz is kind of a little bit of an unsung hero when it comes to the crystal world. People kind of devalue it, you know, because it's very common. The good thing about clear quartz, though, is it's a magnifier. It's one of those few stones that you can actually program for whatever you want to use it for. So it's just like a natural little battery pack. Whatever you ask it to do, it just kind of steps up and does its job, which is great. So you can do something like this where you can like set up a little bit of a ring of protection stones, put some salt around it, maybe put some protection oil on your candle. And again, you could put the person's name on a piece of paper or put a picture. You can write it on the candle. But then you have this nice little grid set up as far as for helping whoever it is you're concerned about. Now there's other herbs that you can use too. This we have Angelica, which is a very protective herb. Kinnick, which is typically a smoking blend, but it's also very protective. This also makes a great offering if you're out in nature because it's all herbs and it'll just break down, which is nice. You don't want to like leave stuff out there that's gonna inhibit anything that has to deal with Mother Nature. And then we also have frankincense tears. This is like if you want to come at things from a higher vibration. So again, this is a resin incense. It looks like little globs there. And you can burn this on charcoal, and you could use that as the incense in your space, like after you do your smudge. So that's an example of some things you can do if you want to like protect a person. Now, if you're looking for like a lot of like just extra little things, this is another really good book that I like. I got salt on it. Sacred Space, Clearing and Enhancing the Energy of Your Home by Denise Lin. Now, Denise Lin goes way far back as far as the Feng Shui world goes, but she has a lot of things in here that are just nice, very easy, easy to do. She talks about holy water, using sound. Oh, that's something we didn't talk about. Let's talk about that real quick. But there's a lot of variety of things that she does. So another way that you can clear energy is with sound. Now, I don't have these in stock right now, but chances are if you're into metaphysics, you've seen these things called tingsas. And they're like little round, they look like a flat brass bell with like a little strap that goes to the other one. They're made of 7 sacred metals, so when you ting them together, they warble. It's not real pleasing to the ear, which is the point. So when you click them together, the sound is very warbly and very vibraty. And the idea is the energetic of that sound in your space will help break up stagnant energy. Now, there's other things that you can do to, as far as like working with the vibration of sound. You can sing, you can like clap your hands, which sounds really basic, but it's really effective. If you have a bell, you can shake the bell in that space as well. Any of those things will work for you, and it's all about like breaking up the stagnant energy and putting good energy or like stable, higher vibrational energy in its space. And again, you're focusing on things like protection and people being happy and healthy and prosperous and all of those things. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I have notes. Okay, let's talk about that. So another thing I wanted to touch on briefly is that we have an arc field around our body that is kind of shaped like an egg, and it goes out about 12 to 18 inches from your body. So if you're in a space and let's say you are feeling not safe where you are, you know, please be sane and practical first. You know, get in and lock your car, that kind of thing. But say you're at an event and you're around a lot of people and maybe somebody just kind of gives you like the they have cooties vibe. A thing you can do is you can energetically enhance your auric field around your body. You can kind of strengthen your egg. So just take a moment to ground yourself, pull in that energy from spirit, be very present where you are, push the energy down into the earth so you kind of are tethered. And then take some of that energy from your core and just gently push it out. And envision yourself like surrounded by a white energetic light around, like shaped like an egg. Or sometimes people will do a blue light around their body. You can totally do that as well. Let's see. I think I touched on everything I wanted to talk to you about protection. I know I talk really fast sometimes, but I was trying to get it into something that was manageable for you. So thank you again for tuning in, and thanks so much for your patience while we're working on this 31 Days of Samhain during a Mercury retrograde. What was I thinking? But we're going to get through it together. So thanks so much, guys, and I hope you'll join me for the next installment of the 31 Days of Samhain. Thanks so much.